when you have ADHD, it's attention deficit or hyperactive disorder. The attention deficit can come in two ways, which is you just can't focus, or you can be hyper-focused, which is what you're talking about.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
And you've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Jonathan, I went through your profile a little bit. Instead of hearing it from me, can you tell the audience just a little bit about who you are and your background?
Yeah, thank you. So briefly, I started out in psychology as an undergraduate in psychology, and my first couple of years were, I didn't want to be a therapist sitting in a room with one person. I wanted to have a bigger impact, a more social impact. And I then went to business school, and after that, I was in cable television for about 14 years. I ran Viacom in California and Oregon. And we really saw the growth of the cable industry there. It was the heyday of the cable industry. And then after that, I went to Pacific Bell Yellow Pages. I was a VP of strategy. And just as we were going into, the internet was getting bigger, and I was helping them go into the internet, as well as television, cable television ads. Because you could take Yellow Page content and repurpose that into lots of different media. And that's where I really got my first inspiration that, hey, you can do one thing in multimedia. And so I became a multimedia guy. And then after that, I ran ISP Channel. I was president of ISP Channel, which we were just talking about before. Right. And in 2002, we closed that company down. Because of there was just internet, what do I want to say? Financial collapse. Yeah.
The bubble bursted in 2000.
Exactly.
And a lot of companies had to make major changes from 2000 to 2002.
Right. And I'm very proud that we closed that company down with $87 million in the bank instead of zero, which a lot of companies did back then. Right. But anyway, after that, I decided that I wanted to get into health communications. My mother always wanted me to be a doctor, and the only thing I gave her was terrible handwriting. So I decided I'd make her a little bit happy. So I got into health, and I started my first company. It was called Starfish Health Partners. And it was basically an integrative health network in the San Francisco Bay Area. And we had about 50 to 70 members, all healthcare practitioners, but they were integrative. So I had integrative doctors and acupuncturists and chiropractors, and it was a really nice network. Again, I had to close that down in 2008 in the next recession. And then I had another business called Inkwell Medical Communications, where we really focused on training health professionals specifically. I built a website that has been very successful. It's been going for the last number of years, called ADHD in Adults. And it was to actually, we got a grant from the US government. I was working with the top ADHD professionals in the country. And we trained health professionals about how to recognize and treat ADHD in adults, because ADHD was originally thought, until the 1980s, was originally thought to be something that was only in hyperactive boys.
Yeah, like puberty, right? That's it.
Yeah, right. And then after that, they took the kids off the medications because the kids calmed down. But the researchers then found that ADHD is a lifelong issue. And so it was all about training doctors how to recognize ADHD in adults. And we trained 33,000 health professionals online, which I'm very proud of. And we also have over 700,000 views on YouTube. Obviously, most of the people who came to the website were the public. So we really started orienting ourselves toward that. So I've been doing that for the last 10 years. I've also been training. Because of all the health marketing I did, I got found by the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, and I've been doing medical communications training for them for the last 10 years. And then I started this company, just my Go-To Health Media, just last year. And I've been doing, interviews with health experts from around the world. And I love doing the show. It's great.
Fantastic. So Go to Health, Elevate Your Life. What is that? Like the just 10,000 foot view, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's
Go to Health.
Yeah, it's an hour-long show each week. I do it on video, on Zoom, and it also gets picked up in audio on Voice America. So I get heard in 36 countries, and it's also syndicated on 8 podcast networks. So Apple, Amazon, Google,
Right.
all the rest. And I basically interview health experts each week that share their expertise or products or services with the public. So I really am facing, just like I have for the last 20 years, I'm facing 2 different audiences. One is I want to get their information out to the public, and that's the main effort of the show. But then the thing is, I'm also working with health professionals and they pay to come on the show, and I do a lot of marketing for them as well.
Fantastic. So rising tides rises all ships, right?
Yes. And even when the economy's down, I'm still rising.
Yeah, the economy is a crazy thing right now, especially. So this episode is going to air July of 2022.
Okay.
We're shooting this in May. Just to give the audience a little context, May of 22 is
Yep.
when we're recording this, and right now in May of 22, the economy is seemingly going in a negative way, right? Which is it's a time to accumulate assets at this point, right? It's going to recover.
Sure,
it's a normal cycle.
I always think of it. An economy is like breathing. You take a big, you breathe out for a long time, really strong, and then every once in a while you got to take a breath.
Yes.
So that's what I think we're going to be doing.
Okay, so you've got a long career, kind of hopping back and forth between health and tech.
Yep.
And you've taken those 2 things together, and you've created Go to Health.
Right. Exactly.
So, and you've touched on so many topics that I really like to talk about. So I just want to jump into that adult ADHD for a second.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And in business owner, and I have an autistic son, so I'm pretty familiar with non-typicalness.
Right.
That's
yes.
the right way to say it.
Atypical is what they call it. Neuroatypical.
Yeah. So yes. I'm pretty familiar with living those, and I've got some friends that I've worked with over the years.
Yes.
That have suffered from adult ADHD and went on medicine. One of my, Chris, my right-hand man right now, or one of my I got a lot of right hands in my life, and I need a lot of right hands.
Yes.
But this is one of them, Chris. He recently got back on his ADHD medicine, and he is a completely different person as far as productivity wise, right? Just cranking it out and just working at the highest possible level. But at the same time, I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I'm a little flighty, and I can, do multiple things at once. And people have told me I might be ADHD in my life. Is some of that ADHD in adults is a little bit of a superpower for businessmen or business people and entrepreneurship?
Well, I wouldn't quite say that. No, I would say, what I would say, ADHD is really a true disorder. And everybody can have, I don't want to call it a symptom, but basically things that might look like or feel like ADHD, but ADHD really requires a diagnosis. And it requires, it's typically an onset during childhood. There's really dysfunction they usually talk about dysfunction in 3 different environments: with school, work, and home. You got to be dysfunctional some way in those 2, in 2 out of those 3. And then, so there's a history of it. And so it really is diagnosable. So we can all be flighty, right? We can all think a lot of things. I'm a very active thinker myself. We can all, I do that, but I'm not ADHD. But so we can all, and unfortunately ADHD has had a lot of lore around it. Like, I'm a little bit ADHD. You're not a little bit ADHD. You're either ADHD or you're not.
So that's a binary thing.
Well, yeah, and there can be milder cases of it and more severe cases of it. So
Okay.
when you are ADHD, it can be a little or a lot. It really depends on, your neurology. So
Gotcha.
we can all, have some of those flighty thoughts, or being able to do things, or having trouble concentrating sometimes, or being able to
Right.
concentrate very deeply sometimes, but it doesn't mean you have ADHD.
Yeah. It's been my experience with people that I know that are diagnosed and they get their meds right. When everything's balanced really well, that they are really, really hyper productive.
Yes.
And
true.
And I really enjoy, I mean, I like that kind of person, that high energy, kind of moving fast and changing gears quickly. I like that kind of energy. But I also like that bury your head in the sand and get a whole lot of stuff done. So
right. And when you have ADHD, it's attention deficit or hyperactive disorder. The attention deficit can come in two ways, which is you just can't focus, or you can be hyper focused, which is what you're talking about. And hyper focused to the extent that if you're doing something and focused on it, somebody will be talking to you, you won't hear it. It's that focused. Because you're just so focused on what you're doing. And so people can be very productive. And there are a lot of CEOs of companies who are ADHD. So it doesn't necessarily stop you from, succeeding in life. It's just something you have to adjust to.
Yeah. Okay.
And medications today are the most effective treatment for ADHD symptoms. So they have side effects, as all medications do. And another project that I'm working on for the last 5 years is something called New Brain Nutrition. I'm working with 18 university hospitals in Europe, and they are doing clinical trials on how nutrition and your lifestyle affect your mental health. So what they're seeing and learning is about how the food you eat and your lifestyle, such as exercise, mostly or not, can actually help mental symptoms. And the reason this is important is there's something called the gut-brain connection. There's the vagus nerve, which runs between your gut and your brain, and there's immediate, constant communication between the two. And if your gut is not in good shape, it doesn't produce the kind of substances that your brain really needs to function effectively. So you want to keep your gut in good shape, and then your brain works better.
Are you implying that good diet and exercise is, but not necessarily a cure, but it goes a long way? Yes.
And the research is not done yet. It will be done near the end of this year, but yes, they are finding, it needs to be finalized, but they are finding that particular foods are inflammatory, which means it can really cause inflammation throughout the body, which can cause disease. And exercise helps metabolize substances, and there are foods that are non-inflammatory, which can be more friendly for you. So yes, and the size of the effect, if I can just compare it a little bit, an ADHD medication, if you think of a 0 to a 1 scale, or a 0 to 100%, ADHD medications are like in the 80% and 90% range of effectiveness, and other non-medication solutions such as food, diet, and exercise are more in the 30 or 40%. So they do have an effect, but it's not as effective as medications.
Okay. And that's probably today because we don't have all the science and research down. Because adult ADHD is, 80s, that's pretty new concept, right?
Yes.
In medicine as a whole.
Yes, so, exactly. Yeah. And this has been found worldwide. This is not just a US thing. This is consistent around the world. 1 in 5 people have ADHD. So it's a pretty prevalent symptom.
Right. Okay. So thank you for doing the research and jumping in there and helping that community, right? Because
yeah, my pleasure.
Neurological disorders hit me really close, and I do believe I've talked to a lot of business owners, and I've talked to business owners that have autism, and I know a lot of business owners that have ADHD, or at least suffer from some kind of I don't know if it's a disorder, but some kind of other struggles that they're dealing with. And I think it's important that if anything, we're talking about these things openly in public, and people know that it's okay to talk about their struggles and their hurdles and all of these things. And it's okay.
Yes.
It's absolutely okay if you're a business owner and you have ADHD or autism or, you know, any other symptom, depression, neurological disorders, whatever it is, right?
Right. And ADHD, you know, if you have ADHD, ADHD people tend to excel in situations where they're more of a, what I'd call a solo performer, rather than operating as part of a team or in a bigger company. There are certainly ADHD CEOs, but what I'm saying, but what you just said is true, that solopreneurship is a great place for people with ADHD, because they can concentrate, it's their own business, and they can do what they do best.
Right. Awesome. So something that I like to talk about quite a bit, and that's changing the mindset on what is failure in business or in life. And you come from a position to where you've went through some .com bubbles, and although it sounds like you've had some really successful exits, but they're still exits. And to me, any company that I've closed, even if it was a profitable at the end, it felt like I was closing something or failing that particular project. And, you know, I try to move failures just learning experience and rungs. Can you tell us about some of the, you know, and you being in business as long as you have, I'm sure that you've had some adversities and some downstrokes, right?
Yes.
How did you deal with those, and how did they make you feel coming out of that?
Right. So the biggest close down I had was ISP Channel, which I mentioned before, which is the internet service provider. And what we did was we successfully, so what it was cable television. We were providing ISP services to cable television companies, right? They were our customers, and they didn't really know how to do the internet. But what we did, as we closed down, we helped them train their own technicians to do the internet. So now with any cable company, that, you know, all cable companies provide internet service. So it was really a transition. But I had 300 employees, and you know, it was a big organization, mostly customer service facing. And I just got a lot of upset, I'll say, from the 50 cable operators we were serving. And I could certainly have felt like a failure, but it was just the environment at the time. And I think what has been successful for me is that I'm just persistent. I am persistent, so that I can take a negative situation and figure out, okay, what was the blessing? What were the good things that came out of that? Because every situation in your life, no matter how negative it may be, has blessings behind it. Now, it may take you a while to find those blessings, and it may take some time and some effort. You got to look for them, but you can identify them afterwards. I remember I was teaching a class on basically on being peaceful in your life. And I said to this was to a group of seniors, and I told them that 2001, that 9/11 was a blessing, and they all went, and I said it was a blessing because in my life, because my daughter and I had been a little bit estranged, and that tragedy brought us back closer together. So that was the blessing in my life. Was that the blessing for the whole world? No, but it was the blessing in my life. So, to get through, I think, being in business by yourself, you just got to find the blessings in things, the things you've learned, the things that you can take forward. It's just, that's the way I keep going, is I just keep, okay, what positive can I find? So I can certainly be down, I can get down, but I don't stay there very long. I don't like feeling sorry for myself. I just kind of pick the pieces up and say, okay, what am I doing next? It's always like, next, what am I doing next?
Right. And you take what you learned to build the next thing, right?
Exactly.
And that's not a failure. To me, I deal with a lot of business owners, and I deal with a lot of youth kids, and I tell them all the time, like, making the decision that you don't want to move forward with this project anymore is not failing or quitting. It's making a decision, right?
Yes.
Stopping because it got hard, that's quitting.
Yeah.
Right. That to me is about the only failure that you can have is, hey, this is hard. I don't want to struggle. I'm just going to quit. I'm just going to be comfortable with where I'm at. That's really to me the only, and unless that's just what you want to be. And then if that's what you want, then that's not failure either. Right.
Yeah.
Just finding your own path and just continuing to carve it is to me what is important in this world and life. And getting caught up on, I don't want to do that because I might fail, or those kinds of things are just so heartbreaking to me. So I try to, talk about, and I fail. I mean, man, out of every successful website that I've done, I've probably done 300 non-successful websites.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so it's just the mindset of, this is just continually learning. And I like that a lot better than the traditional school environment, right? I tried that. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So I learned that I'd be much better off in the world learning, just learning as I go.
And it's like, if failure is like, come on in, the water's fine. It's not necessarily personal. It didn't work. Right. So, okay. So what are you going to do? You're going to find something that works. And what I have found in every one of my projects is, including Go to Health, it takes a while to find the audience and figure out what they're looking for, what they're going to respond to. That's happened in every one of the efforts that I've done since I left corporate life. Is it takes a while to find your audience and what are they looking for? And really what it is. What I've learned to do very well, and I actually encourage all my physician and healthcare professional clients to look at it this way. They typically, and we as business owners typically say, okay, this is what I'm offering. Here it is, right? Now, you can do that, but at some point you got to go around the other side of the counter and say, what is it your audience wants? It doesn't matter what you do. What is it that your audience wants, and figure that out and deliver what they want. Okay. And so it's really kind of turning the table and the perspective to say, yes, I know how to do this really well. This is what I'm doing. But the question is, who cares? What needs do they have, and find those needs and fill it.
And I find it, I do a slightly different approach because I've learned that I can't do at scale things that I don't like doing. Right. I really lean in on that, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
And I lean in on that hard, where what I try to do is just do that at volume and put it out there as much as possible. And then I hope that the audience likes what I'm putting out. Yeah. And then I try to, manage that to, a nice balance between what makes me happy and what gets the viewership. And for Clicks and Bricks, we found that people like to hear the stories of adversity and how people started their business. Right. So obviously on Go to Health, right, you had a lot of tech background, you had a lot of media background, the internet, all those things. What was the defining moment or the aha moment, or was there an aha moment for Go to Health, or was it a constant building on?
So there was a specific moment, which is I got an email. Somebody had researched me and seen what I was doing in my previous business, and said, "Would you like to start a show?" And I thought, all of a sudden, that hit me like a light bulb, because when I was in cable television, I actually had my own show. It was called Cable Talk. It was all about cable television. It was explaining cable television to people. I had guests come on the show. It was a video show, and it was in San Francisco, and I loved it because it was really, getting our message out to the audience. And the other cool thing, people really knew me on town. They'd see me on TV. Oh, I know, I've seen you on TV. I love that. I'm an extrovert. Let me just put that out there. I'm an extrovert, and so I love the attention. It really was, I got an email saying, we'd like to talk to you about doing a show. And so I talked with the producer, and the light bulb went on. This is like the this is the ultimate culmination of all the work I've been doing, which is to have a show about what I've been doing for the last 20 years. Right. And I just love it, I've got all sorts of health professionals that come on the show, fascinating information on the latest in medical science and health. And it's not only conventional medicine, it's also in alternative medicine as well. So hypnosis and acupuncture and chiropractic, and I love it. I'm just having a great time. And I agree with you. I'm doing what I love. I'm doing what I love. And that's what keeps me going, as I'm doing what I love. Yeah.
So obviously, you're a compassionate man, you care about other people's well-being, you're a businessman. When you see a guy in his 30s or a woman in her 30s,
yep,
and I know this all too well, and I want to be a cautionary tale to the people that are coming up in their business. They're
good for you.
They're making their way. They're VP, they're going to vice president. They're president. They're looking to open their own business.
Right.
And they're at the happy hours on 3 to 4 nights a week because they're trying to get the deals, and they're drinking too much, and their diet's not good. They're not going to the gym, and it's okay right now because they're in their late 20s, early 30s, and their body's still holding up. When you see that happening, how do you? One, how does that make you feel? And how do you get through to them to say, hey, at some point, I just wish somebody would have shook me in my late 20s and said, hey, man, this is not going to cut it for you. If you really want to be the business guy you're going to be, you got to knock this shit off.
Yeah. I just being the age I am, I just kind of view that's the stage in life. I'm not really,
They have to go through it.
Yeah, well, I don't know that they have to, but my trying to talk them out of it is not going to work very well, right?
No.
Because yes, as you're saying, you can abuse your body that way when you're younger, and as you get older, you'll find out that it ain't. You can't keep doing that to yourself. And everybody I know, everybody learns that, but it just takes a while. But I think when you're in it, it would be like their parents saying, you're going to be really sorry. So I don't even go there. What I do talk about is, like I said, is, persistence. I'll give you an example. I did teach a course on joy, how to find joy in life.
Okay.
And it was very popular among older folks, but I was asked to teach this to a group of 20-year-olds. My first question was, okay, so who's had something difficult happen in their life? And one young lady slowly raised her hand. She had been divorced, but she was the only one. And it just I forgot about this, but it kind of blew me away. Like, they were only in their 20s. They hadn't had anything difficult happen in their life yet.
Right.
So the rest of my course didn't really have much to do with them, except maybe for the future.
Right.
So, it's really something you have to experience, you just have to experience this kind of stuff in life and these challenges. And then that's when I think, my wisdom and my experience can have more meaning, is that, oh, you've had some tough times. Huh? Well, let's talk about that. We got something in common. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I find it's my belief that a person can be somewhat unhealthy running, a $500,000 to a $2 million business.
Yeah.
Right. And they can kind of throw that to the side wind, because there's not, at 2 million, you start having real, actually at $1 million revenue, you probably have some real problems, right?
Yeah.
Some significant issues.
Yeah.
And your health has to be at a maintainable position, because the stress that's going to come with that, and the physical and I think that people out there in the world are looking at business people thinking, oh, they've got it easy, they sit at a desk all day. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the physical requirements that it took to be, operating at your level, senior VP, owner, entrepreneur? Like, why is your physical health so important at that stage of the game?
Yeah, so it's really all about life balance. And we're not only talking about physical health, we're also talking about mental health.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, and that's the one thing I've learned being in healthcare for the last 20 years, is that, your body is one. And we all often, I often thought of myself, somebody asked me to draw myself, And it was basically my head, with all sorts of media all around it. And the other one, well, that's you working. Show me you relaxed. And it was my head in a hammock, as if I didn't have a body, right? It was just the head, because I'm so much in my head. So life is about balance, and you've got to keep yourself healthy. I go through, it's a challenge. I will say this right away. I love to work out. I was working with it before COVID. I was working with a trainer 3 times a week. I was in great shape, felt great. And then with COVID, I just kind of stopped. And I've kind of built my own little home gym, but I really haven't gotten back into that consistently yet. So I would say I'm still not in balance. And I keep saying, okay, this week I'm going to start. But, and once I get going, once I get started, it's great. I love it. I can't do without it. I get addicted to it. But today, as we're talking, I'm not in it yet. But it really is important, because and here's another thing: your brain doesn't work that well if your body's not working that well, right? They
got to be in sync, right?
Yeah.
I had and I still have this problem. I have a major disconnect, like you, with my body and my mind. Like, it's a major disconnect.
Yes.
And sometimes it's really, really bad.
Yeah.
But we figure out how to get back around. There was something you said that I wanted to go back to, and I can't recall exactly what it was. So we'll just keep moving forward.
Sure.
So I believe that you're right. You have to be in sync with your mind and your body, because you're not going to be physically fit unless your mindset's in the right spot.
Right.
So I remember what it says. You said you loved exercise. I hate exercise. Absolutely hate
right.
it. It is.
Right.
I do it regularly. I found an exercise that I like doing, and that's boxing. I really, really enjoy boxing.
Oh, good.
The sport of boxing, and the just the repetitiveness of it. So
yeah.
And for me, I had to buy the boxing school that I went to make sure that I went there every single day. So I not only run the data centers and have the show, but I also own a boxing school in St. Louis. So
wow.
My days are pretty full and joyful all day long. My wife runs the boxing school, so I meet her there at 6 p.m. every night, and then we're there until about 8 or 9.
Wonderful. Well, I'll even say, and I'm terrible at doing this right now, even if you can go out for a walk for 20 minutes a day, half hour. And we've got science that proves this. And one of my shows was all about this, how exercise helps your brain. But even 20 minutes a day can really clear your mind. It gets your body moving. They say sitting is the new smoking. Really. I've heard that a lot, which is that sitting all day is as bad for you as smoking is. That's why you're seeing the increase in these desks that, where you can stand and raise and lower them. So you're not sitting all day. So even, going out for a walk for 20 minutes a day is good for your body. And it also clears your brain. You'd be amazed at how much, God, you think about other things. You're not focused on a computer with, you're not focused on 12 inches away from your face. You're actually, there's a world out here. There are trees there,
Absolutely.
It's good for you. Yeah.
This is actually one of the first, I think we've only done about 15 of these episodes where I sit down. Typically really? I stand. Well, I used to stand, and my team has convinced me that I'm just more relaxed when I'm sitting and having a conversation with people. But I would prefer to stand. Like, I'm more comfortable standing up and walking around. But I talk with my hands a bunch and bump the table, and it just didn't work out. And my producers are like, dude, you got to sit down. You have to do it. So this is where we're at now. But trust me, as soon as this is over, I'm gonna be walking up, pacing, and I don't sit at my desk. I walk around the office with my phone, and it's just so much. The flow state is better, I think, when you're walking around having conversations than when you're sitting and doing that. But sometimes sitting is called for.
Yes.
Right.
If you have to. Right.
Yes. Awesome. So Go to Health weekly show, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, all those places if you want to tune in.
Yeah.
If somebody wanted to get in contact with you, so it's go to healthmedia.com, and that's get updates, and then you'll let them know.
Yes. Right.
When new shows are coming out and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep. We have a weekly email. I don't over email. It's just like here's the show that's coming on next, and I just love what I'm doing. It's great. And I really, enjoy, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback about how helpful the show has been, not only for the audience, but also for the provider. Because a lot of providers, yeah, it's interesting. A lot of providers, they tend to be scientists, and they tend to be introverts. And I remember talking with my mother's doctor one time, and he said, do you know what the difference between an introvert doctor and an extrovert doctor is? And we said, no, what? And he said, well, the introvert doctor looks at his shoes. The extrovert doctor looks at your shoes. Right. Right. So
Yes.
So a lot of the providers, they're excellent at what they do, but they're not marketers. That's not what they were trained to do, and that's what I help with. That's the science that I bridge. I bring the science of communications to their health science. So that's a lot of fun. What I love doing.
So you help them with their marketing strategy, get them in front of the camera, interview them about their practice.
Yes. Yep. Do that. We interview them. It's an hour-long show on Go to Health, and it's Go to Health Media, by the way, for those of you who'd like to watch the show. It's gotohealthmedia.com. But we also do a press release for them about the show, which gets them 400 plus backlinks to their website. So that's a big help to them. They get more traffic that way. And then I've also started building apps for people. So a lot of practices can use apps, especially for their mobile apps for their education. People can make appointments on their phone. You can communicate directly with people who have your app. So
just do me a favor and make sure you get the guest registration forms digital for all the doctors on the planet.
Oh, I have to tell you that I have to tell you, yes, I completely understand. My partners and I started a business called Easy Docs MD.
Right.
Easy Docs. And it was to basically digitize all the intake forms that doctors require you to make.
It's horrible.
It is horrible for the patient. The doctors don't care.
No,
it's a patient need, right? But the problem was that the reason why we stopped it was every doctor's got some kind of electronic medical record system, and we would have to integrate with, if the doctors were going to be interested, we'd have to integrate with all of them, and it was just too expensive, and the doctors didn't want to pay for it, so we just said. So I agree. It's horrible to fill out all those paper forms.
It's miserable, and the solution is just so simple.
Yes.
To go digital forms. Even I mean, still they can print the form out for themselves, but for the patient, I've had 3 surgeries this last year on my arms. And how do I fill that out? So literally, I just started telling the nurse,
that's a problem.
I just started handing it back to her. I'm like, you're gonna have to dictate for me because I can't do this. And why do I have to do this every single time I come in here? This seems hyper repetitive and useless. A waste of paper. And I really wish that the medical community would get together and make these forms go away. And if they don't, in the next 5 years, I'll probably start a business that does it.
Well, let me know, because I was in that business, and I think it would be interesting for very helpful for the patients. But we even asked the doctors, look, if we just sent you, if the patient filled it out and they just brought you a digital readout, they said, no, you got to fill out our form. Right, because it's in the order we want it, and it answers the questions we want.
Yes.
Anyway,
that's a whole different can of worms. If anybody's out there that wants to start a business and they can overcome that problem, that's $100 million business all day long if they can.
There we go. So that's an example of a failure. That we had a great idea, we built the product, we tried to sell it, we ran into it, didn't sell. So we just said, okay, next.
And that might have been, the second mouse gets the cheese in this one, right?
Right.
The early bird did not get the worm because it was just too early on that kind of technology for the world, right? So
right.
In business, it's timing. Having the best idea on the planet, right, is not the there was MySpace before Facebook, and there was Excite Chat before there was MySpace, right? There was Alta Vista before that. So these things can be they can be overtaken, folks. And it's our job to build a better mousetrap and get that done for the world. So Jonathan, thank you so much for your time today. I very much appreciate it.
Ken, this was a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on.
Thank you for joining us. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with before we go?
If you want to do your own business, God bless you. Ken and I are here. There's so much support you can get out there from people who've done this, either better or worse. But we've all had experiences, and it's what I said before. With me, it's about persistence. You just don't. I'm kind of like a dog with a bone, which is you just. You got to know when to stop, but I don't stop easily. I just keep hitting it, and that's what I'm really good at.
Yeah, and that reminds me of Napoleon Hill's quote in there, the 3 feet from gold chapter, right? It's you never know when you're going to strike it, and it's so frequently that you say a dog on the bone. I always feel like a dog on a chain that's getting ready to break, and it's like I just got to pull a little bit harder, right? And I get a little bit further each time, and sometimes, I think the businesses fail whenever the banks tell you it's got to shut down. They're not going to.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate enough that I haven't had that. There's some businesses, I've had some that just shut down because of medical issues, right? I shut down at one of our companies, a family company, because when my liver failed, I couldn't do the work anymore.
Oh, wow.
I had to shut it down, right?
Yeah.
I had to get healthy again, and actually just sold my company last 2 weeks ago. Ended up selling the company, but it happens in business. You fall down, you get back up, you keep going. That's just
right. And it's surprising. The more people you talk to, when you get to know them a little bit better, you find out how many people have declared bankruptcy before, but they're still. I'm talking to them with where they are now, and they've come back from bankruptcy, right?
Yeah, and I'm fortunate that I've not had to do that. I've come really, really close, really close.
Yeah.
We turned a company from a $4 million a year deficit back to a profit, and it took us 4 years to do it. But we had the coal collapse in 2016 really hurt our company bad.
What business was that?
We're a data center business, and we had some of the major coal companies in the world. We had I managed Peabody Energy's entire data infrastructure.
Wow.
Right. And they filed bankruptcy one day.
Wow. Yeah. There you go.
And my shareholders said, no bankruptcy, we can't do it.
Right.
I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, we have all these long-term contracts that we're on hook for this big client. They file bankruptcy, we should be able to. And he's like, no, we got to figure it out.
Right.
We'll just pay off the debt and close it if we have to. But we actually 4 years later it took to turn it around. But that was that took every ounce of energy of every person on our team.
Sure.
Not everybody made it through.
Well, the amazing thing is once you get a business going, you have, I don't know how much time we have left, but just the last couple of nuggets. When you have a business going, you've got assets, you've got experience, you've got competence, and those are assets. And you can use those assets and that competence in more than one place. So if you were providing this kind of services for large coal companies, you could certainly provide those kind of services for other kinds of companies. Absolutely. So, where else can we do this? That's the secret. It's
time and perseverance, and you can get it, and a vision, right? You have to know where you want to go. If you don't know where you want to go, then that's a problem. Sometimes it's just the next step, right? Oh, I got to get to even. Right. That's an important milestone. I'm at the even now. I want a little, I want a nicer car now. So I got to, work it up and just keep hitting those milestones and have your vision of what your end goal dream is. But and keep working towards it. If all you want to do is have a 9 to 5, go home, hang out with the kids, watch Netflix for a couple hours and go to bed. The world is here for you, and you've got that. That's a pretty easy thing to accomplish in today's world, right? So, but if you want to take it up a notch, you absolutely can. You don't have to ask anybody's permission. Right, exactly. But the other thing that I love about owning my business is my time is my own. So I can take the time for the family, Absolutely. And if I want to work all night, I can work all night. I don't like doing that anymore, but I used to. Yes. I don't enjoy it as much as I used to, but I've got my whole family involved in the businesses, right? They're all part of it, right? So that's great. It works out pretty well. I'm enjoying this section of my life has been very, very enjoyable. So good. Well, good luck with your show. Thanks for having me on. No problem. Thank you so much, Jonathan. And it was great talking with you. It was a pleasure. Have a great day. Take care. God bless. All right. Bye-bye. Bye.
That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. All you have to do to join that text line is send me any question about business or technology. I'll do all the research, and I'll give you an absolutely free, totally unbiased answer. Get to work.